Israel's war with Iran has entered a new and audacious phase, one scripted in the shadows by Mossad and unleashed in the skies by the Israeli Air Force. As dawn broke, the world watched in shock as Israeli jets roared over Iran, pounding nuclear and missile sites in a coordinated assault that left Tehran, Natanz, and military compounds ablaze. But the real story began long before the first bomb fell. Our next report telling you more.
Air raid sirens, mushrooming fireballs, F-16 staring through the skies. Israel says that 200 fighter jets took part in the mission. Israel's massive Operation Rising Lion has hit Iran hard. Iran's top commanders are dead. Nuclear sites ablaze.
Israel launched Operation Rising Lion, a targeted military operation to roll back the Iranian threat to Israel's very survival. This operation will continue for as many days as it takes to remove this threat. For decades, the tyrants of Tehran have brazenly, openly called for Israel's destruction. They've backed up their genocidal rhetoric with a program to develop nuclear weapons.
Tehran vows bloody payback as the region stands on a knife's edge. The devastation is unmistakable. Black smoke billows from the Natanz uranium enrichment facility, Iran's nuclear crown jewel. Flames consume buildings and emergency crews scramble through rubble. In Tehran, missile impacts shattered windows for kilometers, igniting fires and plunging neighborhoods into chaos.
I had just pulled out of the parking lot and was driving towards the middle of the road when I suddenly heard a massive explosion. Debris fell on my vehicle, trapping me inside. Right now my head is buzzing and I have no idea what exactly happened.
But the real shock lay in the Mossad's clandestine hand. In the weeks leading up to the raid, Mossad operatives created a covert drone launch base near Tehran. The Mossad placed precision weapon systems into Iran. These weapons were kept in a safe house right under the nose of the Iranian military. That's not all. Israeli commandos also quietly sneaked into Iran. All this was preparation for Thursday's fierce attack. As Israel's jet struck, these drones simultaneously activated, shredding surface-to-surface missile launchers and air defense systems from within. As a result, Iran's anti-aircraft defenses were blindsided, giving Israeli jets total air supremacy. Tehran's skyline painted in ash and smoke. Among the dead are Iran Revolutionary Guards Chief Hossein Salami, Mohammad Bagheri, Iran's Armed Forces Chief of Staff General Amir Ali Hajizadeh, the head of missile program, plus leading nuclear scientists. Iran labeled the strikes a declaration of war. Supreme Leader Khamenei warned of a bitter fate for the Zionist regime.
The attack last night has proven to the entire world the truth of what the Islamic Republic of Iran has been declaring for many years, that aggression and criminality are intrinsic to the Zionist regime's nature. Of course, the Iranian nation and its officials will not remain silent in the face of this crime. The Islamic Republic of Iran's legitimate and powerful response will make the enemy regret its foolish actions.
Global airspace was scrambled, flights grounded, crude oil surged, and stocks crumbled. The world is staring at a dangerously escalating situation in West Asia.
And we're joining us live on the broadcast, Lieutenant Colonel Daniel L. Davis, a military expert and host of Daniel Davis Deep Dive on YouTube. Welcome to Beyond, Colonel Davis. First up, what we're also learning is that U.S. is now shifting ships, including destroyer USS Thomas and other military resources to West Asia. How do you assess the situation right now? Do you think we are inching towards an all-out war?
Oh, we certainly are inching in that direction. Whether it ends up that way will really be dependent on entirely what Iran decides to do next. Because as I see it, there are one of two possible courses of action here. One, that the Iranian regime could prioritize a regime survival above everything else. And if they do that, then that's going to mean that their response, and they will have to do some kind of response no matter what. There will be a response, but they will probably do so in that version in a measured way that's designed not to expand the war, that's designed to say, all right, for our domestic audiences, we're doing something, we're imposing some kind of penalty on Israel, something along the lines of what we saw the two times in 2024 when Israel and Iran had the missile and drone strikes to go back and forth, and when they hit each other, etc., that it was designed not to expand into a war. But if they prioritize revenge, in which case they say, in that case, they won't care what the reaction would be. They'll say, no, we're tired of being pushed around. Being restrained doesn't help us. So now they're going to go all out, in which case they can use some of their best weapons, the long-range missiles, which can penetrate the Israeli Iron Dome, and they could strike serious targets inside of Israel. They could hit Israeli assets in the region. They could assassinate Israeli people. Just so basically doing the same thing to Israel is what Iran just had suffered at their own hands so far. Apparently that's going to continue on. But depending on which way they go there, it could depend on how this explodes. Because if they go the revenge route, they may say that whatever any public statements were, that the United States was involved, in which case they may attack American crews in American bases in Syria, Iraq, Kuwait, elsewhere in the region, and they may also lash out at oil production facilities of regimes that are Arab regimes that are friendly to the Israeli side there, to make sure that everybody knows that being Israel's friend is painful. So yes, it could go into an all-out war in this case, but right now we don't know which it is, and I would wager that that's probably a lot of what's going on inside the halls of power inside Tehran right now, where they're deciding what's going to happen. Because whichever course they go, there are significant ramifications for the Iranian regime itself.
Right, Colonel Davis, because just a few days ago, Iran threatened to strike U.S. bases in the region if an all-out war arises, which you have also hinted at. I also want to talk to you about the fact that the U.S. president has issued a warning to Iran, saying that if Iran does not strike a nuclear deal with the United States of America, then the next planned attacks will be more brutal. What perhaps can we expect on that front?
Well, more of the same. And in fact, this just looking at this from a purely military perspective so far, this Israeli attack was nothing short of spectacular, because they had ground forces on there with the Mossad and several other clandestine operations that blinded the radars of the Iranian air defense capacity. They had some drone launches from within the country. I mean, it was really textbook amazing that happened there, and the consequences are profound for Iran, because now then they are virtually blind. Some of those things you just can't fix in short order, so they are totally vulnerable right now. And especially if the U.S. joins in along with Israel, there is a great deal of damage, because you can literally fly with impunity through the country and there would be nothing Iran could do. So it could get a lot worse for Iran, but I would be really shocked if they go to and do a negotiated settlement now along the terms that that the U.S. was trying to get prior to all this. I just don't see them submitting to that. So right. We'll see what's going to happen with that. But yeah, they're right. It could get a lot worse.
Right, Colonel Davis, you speak of how these are uncertain territory that both the countries are walking on, but how do you perhaps assess the military capabilities of both Iran and Israel at this point of time? And if you can also chart out the difference with the skirmishes and the hostilities that we witnessed last year between Iran and Israel, and this time around, how different will the response be?
Yeah, I mean, that's going to depend on which of these positions the Iranian regime takes, whether regime survival or revenge gets prioritized. Because right now, Iran is very, very vulnerable, and if Israel and or the United States wants to, they could cause profound damage that they would be almost unable to stop. So Iran has to calculate. We do have some long-range missiles. We do have some cards to play, but to use them is going to mean that they're going to invite retaliation that they almost can't stop. And again, that's what we can't predict right now as to how much pain the Iranian regime is willing to take in this situation here. So that means that Israel, and let's be clear on this Iron Dome that gets a lot of credit. I guess people claim that it's this invulnerable thing. It locks down 90-something%. It only knocks down 90% of some categories, like the slow-moving drones. But the ballistic missiles that Iran has, and has a lot of them, there's a lot they can do, and they can get through that defensive shield if they target specific sites. So they have some number of that. So Iran can inflict a lot of pain on Israel if it goes to full-out war. And as I think you pointed out right before this segment here, the Ayatollah did say this is a declaration of war. So it seems like he's indicating it could be in this category here, in which case things could get really ugly for Israel before it gets uglier for Tehran. So that's what I'm really watching for. And right now, we just don't know which way it's going to go.
Right, Colonel Davis, thanks very much for joining us here on Beyond Fine Print and sharing your insights with us.
Always my pleasure.
Likewise.